Welcome to Bears on Tap, hosted by Kyle Juice Michalski, Quinten Q Krzysko, Sonny Verma, and the one and only Ron Luce. Bringing you all the news, analysis, and opinions on the charter franchise, Chicago Bears.
They may have broken our hearts, but they'll never break our spirit. Ron, this was a brutal one.
That's debatable, Q. I think they could break my spirit. They're very close. This is a brutal one. We still got 2 minutes of them running out the clock to witness along the way. But yeah, man. I mean, I asked you and Sonny in the watch along, what is this game just as bad as last week, or is it worse? And I would almost argue it might be worse. At least last week you had the big plays to Roma Dunze that gave you some level of excitement. And I guess maybe you could blame the West Coast and it was Brown's first game. And this is just bad. You had the extra day of prep because it's Monday Night Football. You got to get something in place here. This just is not great. Not great at all.
Yeah, I think this is worse, but I think this is a team who is just trying to get to the finish line. That's my takeaway from today. This is a team that is just trying to run out the clock, get to the end of the season. They know there's wholesale change coming, and they're just trying to get out alive, trying to get out healthy, trying to get to that, vacation trip to the to some resort in Mexico. They're just trying to get there to the finish line. And that's how this game felt to me. It's, first half, you ran the ball 16 times. You had called passes 13. That's a team who's just trying to play it safe, get through the end of the season. A coach who's trying to get his players to the end of the season, which I can understand to a degree. And it's where the Bears are. It's going to be a tough few weeks to podcast on. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and I think the part of it though that feels kind of shitty, just to me as a Bears fan in this whole thing, Q, is we're not going to get a even remotely okay evaluation of Thomas Brown.
No, it's done. It's out the window.
It's damage control. It's at this point, why did you promote him to the head coach if it's just going to foil everything? Understanding that hey, even if Thomas Brown wasn't named head coach, he would still have responsibility to pick up for the loss of Eberflus and things like that. But at least if he was just calling the offense, maybe at least we would still get something out of this season. But there's just, if this is what it's going to be, like you said, just getting to the finish line, you're not even going to get a good evaluation of the guy. So either A, you've just completely punted his next job opportunity as well, or B, if you're Thomas Brown, this for sure shows you don't want to be back here next year, even if the head coach comes in and wants to keep you, if it's not a Ben Johnson.
I mean, I think the reality is he's not back here next year regardless. I don't think that's really in the cards. And I don't know. My thought process is still, you gave him a chance to surprise you.
Yeah,
it might have been a slim chance, but he still had the chance. Sure. And that's more than some guys ever get. And truly, we've seen coaches do this, take a few years, become a head coach someplace else and succeed. That experience is valuable. He knows what it's like to be an NFL head coach now, and I think that is valuable. Look at Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell was an interim coach years ago.
Sure.
So to me, the idea that you were able to, you gave him the chance to surprise you.
Oh, we got a Tyson Bagent sighting.
And that means a lot. That means, or I shouldn't say means a lot, but my worry this whole time was, if you didn't give him this chance and he does well as OC, you're stuck in this weird place of well, he was having success. Do we want to keep him as OC now? Do we want to make sure he stays there? And then you're putting handcuffs on your coach again. And you end up in the, he was the most promising candidate on the roster. or on the coaching staff. You gave him his chance to shock you. He hasn't shocked you, understandably, but he's gaining something out of it, and you gain more certainty out of it, is the way that I look at it. I don't think it's damaging to Caleb in any way. Like, I think they're just here.
No, I agree. And I'm okay with them going to Tyson Bagent here on this last drive because it's like, cool, game's over. You're waving the white flag. It is what it is. Get Tyler Scott and some of these other guys a couple of reps. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But it's just, I mean, this is like you said, man. This is what the rest of the season's gonna feel like. Like, I don't know if they're gonna win a game. I don't think even if Green Bay trotted out their twos, I don't think they win that game. Like, that's how bad it's starting to feel.
Yeah, I mean, and you never know. Like, I mean, I'll go back to the staff that Thomas Brown was on last year. You look at the 2023 Panthers. They fired their coach and they sucked down the stretch. They were playing very uninspired football. Then they took the Packers down to the wire in a 30-33 game. Then they were shut out at each of the next 2 weeks. You know, like there might be a random spurt in there. I don't think it would mean anything. It's just a random spurt. So I don't know. Maybe they have some competitive game somewhere in the next 3, but I'm not expecting much. I'm not holding my breath for much. This team has not had any chemistry from the get-go. You're not building it now. Like, these guys are trying to protect themselves, protect their contract situations, and make sure they can keep making money next year.
Yeah, and unfortunately, too, I think that also means just anything from a Caleb Williams development standpoint is largely halted. Like, there's going to be things he gathers just from playing, maybe in a couple of the next games, especially if like Braxton Jones is healthy. I think the Kieran Amagaji thing might have had more effect on the game plan than we'd like to admit. But maybe Jones returns next week against Detroit, plus you're at home. So, like, maybe, right? Maybe you at least have a fun game. You have Caleb Williams, you know, he has a decent game. Maybe it's 250-2 or something like that. And, you know, probably still get the break speech off you by the Lions, but at least you're seeing something out of your young developing quarterback. Otherwise, outside of that, like, the rest of the season is going to largely be lost in terms of development for Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's value to be had in him seeing defenses. Yeah, always. Like, him just seeing and processing different defenses will always hold some value because it's something for him to put in the memory bank and pull back on later. But, like, from a truly getting better standpoint, I don't think there's much there. Like, I mean, and for a guy like Rome, I think there's something to be said for just reps matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, a guy like DJ's getting nothing out of the rest of the year. Like Cole Kmet, there's nothing to really be gained. Like they're just trying to get healthy or trying to get to the finish line healthy and move on. Forget this season ever happened. Basically, like they don't want to think about this season for the next 3 months, probably.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, especially like you said, I think you mentioned it on the live stream here tonight, our watch along. Like, everybody knows it's wholesale changes, and the Weeder article further and further probably gets it to a point where you're probably realistically Ryan Poles is probably done. If we're just being brutally honest here. So the way I look at it is, like you said, it's going to be wholesale. The only thing that's going to be cohesive outside of players on the roster that are under contract next year is Kevin Warren. Otherwise, the whole front office and coaching staff is going to look completely different in a year from now. Like you said, I think a lot of guys are just hoping to kind of get through the season healthy. Guys that are impending free agents like a Keenan Allen are already thinking maybe about where they're going to try to go next year. And you're realistically just hoping the Bears make something happen quickly after Black Monday. Hopefully within that week, I would argue, at least having a GM, if not before then.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Kevin Warren to be a man with a plan. I don't know how fast you can act, but about however fast you can, I imagine he's going to be acting on it. Man, it's like last year when I was saying fire Poles and Flues, that was like a understanding that it's not fair to polls and he might be just fine. Just don't take the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really sucks to see it actually not be like it was the right. Like I didn't want to see polls fail this year, and if it's feeling like it sucks. It absolutely sucks to see it fail from that aspect. From like we all thought Eberflus might fail this year. I think very few of us thought polls would be in this position that he's in right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think coming into the season, we were like, yeah, there were some things he didn't do maybe that they needed to do better. And then you turn around and like you said, you learn about what they wanted with Waldron and some of the other things he didn't listen on. And then you're like, oh my God. Like, I think you put it perfectly though, Q. Like that article was damning. Like that's like sealing fate level detail becoming public knowledge. I mean, it made him look really bad. And
that's not some assistant coach who's been with the Bears for 3 years who is going out and saying that type of detail. That is like a concerted effort to make Ryan Poles look bad in my mind. I mean, I can't think of many leaks that big that have come out in an article like that in someone's tenure. Like the Mitch Trubisky article had a lot in it, but there were changed tenures in there. There were like, I mean, even I don't know, maybe Eberflus could have been some of the sourcing in that. I'm not sure though. Like because that was some of that made Eberflus look bad. So it's like, why would Eberflus be said? You know, it doesn't track to me.
Why would he be costing himself?
Yeah, and some of it, like Waldron wouldn't know about the Nate Davis signing, like, and then you're talking, is it maybe sourced from Getsy and Waldron and Eberflus? And it's like, I don't think it's that deep. I truly think it's pretty surface where that article came from, and that's just an opinion, but that's where my head's at on it.
Yeah, that was, some would argue, too juicy to be just bits and pieces from a bunch of different people. And I think Sonny sums it up here, right? It's just brutal. And Matthew's at the point now where he just wants to see Caleb developing, wouldn't sacrifice him for that. Defense played hard, in the first half. Caleb missed a lot of throws. He did, and then once the defense they just couldn't get it together. He says Stevenson cost them one. It just, the only way I can put it, Q, like you said, it's just this game there was no juice to this game. Mm-hmm. I think we feel it afterwards. Like I feel exhausted after just watching that game.
Yeah.
Almost defeated in myself. I'm like, yeah, we're fans and but like this is a different level of defeat. This isn't like, ooh, they were right there and then they lost in heartbreak. This was just demoralizing.
Completely uninteresting defeat.
Yeah. Literally just like keel over, show your stomach and just roll over and die. Like that's what this game was.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
I mean, hey, number 64 played.
Sure did. Had a great game, too. Hey, he was fun.
Yeah.
He was fun.
Well, let's see. What was his name? Jonathan Ford. Jonathan Ford showed some juice that might get him an NFL contract for next year.
Like, yeah, maybe with
Marcus
the Bears.
Walker showed some juice that is either going to keep him on the Bears or get him some nice money next year. Outside of that, there wasn't a lot to, I don't know. Like, I mean, Byard had a few nice pass breakups. I thought he showed some stuff. TJ Edwards did make a couple plays, but ultimately it just felt like a team that was, again, I mean, I hate to be a broken record, out-coached, out-talented, like every aspect of the game. They weren't on the same tier.
Yeah, just out everything. Like Sonny says here, it was 10-0 at the first commercial break, and it just felt like it was just over. And Matthew has a good point in here, too. It just like you could tell the team wasn't interested either because of like that one touchdown drive, or what should have been a touchdown drive to DeAndre Swift. Like he says late in his comment here, Kramer just simply not checking in. Like that's just a mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of mental things tonight. Guys dropping passes, guys, missing throws.
Well,
like
the Kramer part, that would have made it 7-13. You're right there.
You're literally in this ball game. Yeah.
Like that was so costly to them. It was just, and it doesn't matter. Like they're there's nothing to play for anymore. We're just here. We're watching because we're filthy addicts at this point. But like, it just sucks. It sucks. I don't know what kids are watching the Bears saying, I want to be a Bears fan over the last 5 years. Like, I don't know how long you can continue this. This has to be one of the worst 5-year stretches for Bears fandom since probably the early 90s.
Yeah, I'd say probably the early to mid 90s.
Yeah, it's
pretty bad.
Brutal.
It's been a long time. Like there's Bears bad, and then there's this. And like this is a new level of bad, even for the Bears, which is crazy to think because we've seen a lot of bad in our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about the George McCaskey era here, because he took over as chairman in 2011, I want to say.
2011.
2012. So 2011, they went 8-8. Next year they went 10-6. Next year 8-8, and then it was 4 straight losing seasons before 2018, and they were stuck in 8-8 purgatory again. And now we're back to 5 straight losing seasons now. So it's tough. Like, I mean, hopefully the George McCaskey era is over and the Kevin Warren era has started, because I mean, and I was saying on the broadcast, on the watch along, it can always get worse. And it can. But you know what? Change that results in worse is better than sitting in not even purgatory, sitting in like the higher rungs of hell is better than the lower rungs of hell. You know, like it's
100%.
You could be just the Browns of my childhood, but like, I don't know, at least they're trying.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and they've made concerted efforts to try, and it's like, I think they got the coaching hire right. They just paid the wrong quarterback, and it's, but it's crazy to like, you look around the NFL, even this season and in the recent years, and you go, what other franchises would you even borderline put up here with the Bears in terms of just level of incompetency? Maybe the Jets, right? Maybe the Giants
Jaguars
of the last 5 years, Jaguars, but like, it's a small list. Like the Bears are in, like you said, the low rungs of hell right now. And even the high rungs of hell in this team, maybe at least being a little bit fun for the next few years could really go a long way. Matthews is here. He saw McCaskey. They showed him on camera during the game. He says it feels like he is still in control, and he tells McCaskey to back off, let the people you hired, to do their job, do it. Like, and Matt also said Raiders. Yeah, I mean,
that's the Bears contemporaries. That's their comparisons. The Jets, it's the Raiders, it's the Browns, it's the teams that no one wants to be and everyone laughs at. The Bears are a laughing stock. This is where we're at. Like it was a nice run with Lovey for the 8-9 years he was in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Resulted in 2 NFC championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance. But since then, it's just been, they're a joke. Like, it's brutal. It sucks, but let me put it this way: when your team's analysts, fanalists, bloggers become really good at NFL draft stuff, that means you're in the bottom of the league.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing interesting enough to keep you out of NFL draft content. It's the most interesting thing you can think of every single year. And I love draft. But if the Bears were making the playoffs, I wouldn't be spending the time on the draft stuff. No, I'd be breaking down what they're doing on the field. I'd be going into free agency and like the possibilities of what this team could be. When it feels like there are no possibilities left, you become a draft analyst. And that's what Bears bloggers have been doing the last few years.
Yeah.
It's a rough spot.
It's already mock draft season, Q.
The amount of draft analysts from Cleveland is massive. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah, it's not. And it's, like you said, it aligns with the George McCaskey era of running the team. This team became bad once he took over and he fired Lovey, and the whole Phil Emery, Mark Trestman experience began. And then it's been a clown show ever since.
Yeah. And here we are, just, week 15, another ranting on a terrible season of just losing and like.
Just think, there's only 3 more games left.
There's 3 whole games left.
There's 3 whole games. Well, one of them is Thursday night football. So naturally, that's already going to be an ugly game anyway. So we can mentally prepare ourselves for that one.
Which one's Thursday night? Is that
right after Christmas?
Seahawks, right?
Yep. It's the penultimate game of the season.
That's the one that'll be fun.
Probably, because there'll be no game plan. It'll be street ball, and Caleb will go do Caleb things, and everybody will be like, this cleanses the soul. Thank you for a Christmas gift. And then they're just going to get trounced in Lambeau at the end of the year, and that's going to be over. But they still have to get their ass beat by the Lions, too, Q. Again.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We're going to watch all these games. We're going to be here to talk through them all. It's, we come back here with a smile on our face and try to bring the energy every single week. And we're going to do it again. We'll be back with O-line breakdown. There's nothing I enjoy more than watching the trenches.
Q, I'll tell you what, though. We got a fun one this week. We're going to live grade Kieran Amagaji, right? You and I?
Yeah.
That's just going to be the whole show. We're just going to live grade Kieran Amagaji.
Yeah. Well, usually I have all my grades done before the show. This week I won't. This week we will do Kieran Amagaji's grade on the air live and see where it comes out to. Which he wasn't good tonight, but truly, I mean, in the run game, probably the O-line was probably messier than I'm thinking in my head, but I didn't feel like the O-line was awful tonight.
I don't think it was as messy
got
as
beat
you
a few times, but
I don't think the O-line was that messy in the run game, Q. I honestly think a lot of the messiness in the run game was DeAndre Swift not knowing how to hit a hole. He did not have a great
Caleb
night.
Tripped him.
Yeah, because he had it forced him to see the cutback, and he actually took it. I'm telling you, man, it might be a little bit of DeAndre Swift slander this week with missing holes. Because there's a couple of plays where I was watching, I'm like, there's a hole there, and he just can't find it. And it's just like that alone might be a shame on polls, right? Because there was rumors and reports during the Giants offseason hard knocks that the Bears were driving up the price for Saquon.
Yeah. I mean, this
only to turn around and sign DeAndre Swift.
This isn't unknown about DeAndre Swift. This has been the knock on him his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
That he can't read run lanes inside the tackle, and he tries to bounce it too much. That is the scouting report on DeAndre Swift as a free agent. You knew what you were paying. So I don't, and I've liked Swift. Swift has come up with a quarter of the Bears' explosive plays this year. He is explosive, but he's not a bell cow, and you've tried to make him a bell cow. And you looked at, it was always flawed logic to look at what he did in Philly and say that's reasonable to expect. Because that Philly line is disgusting. They were opening holes for him left and right with a very mobile quarterback who also makes the run game easier. I don't know. I like Swift. I don't think he's ridiculously overpaid. I just don't think he's a bell cow back, and they have treated it like a bell cow back this year. They didn't really have an option in this game because Roschon is injured, but play shitty games, win shitty prizes type thing. This is the depth of your roster.
And I'm telling you, Q, I've been saying it to people for 3.5, 4 weeks now. If you don't think there's a chance that the Bears use a 3rd-round pick or one of those 2 fifths on a running back, you're wrong, because they're going to. It's a deep running back draft. They're going to try to get somebody in this draft. If they don't, because I don't think they're going to pay the position, right? They're probably going to pay O-line. They might pay D-line if they do anything in free agency. It's realistically going to come down to them probably drafting a running back. And I know you were teasing the idea of Ashton Gianti if they end up with a Ben Johnson or something at head coach. But, I mean, you really need a real bell cow back. And I think that would help Caleb a lot. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, if Ben Johnson is the Bears head coach, I really believe there's a chance they draft Ashton Gianti if he's there at 9, assuming that they're at 9. Because you look at his offense in Detroit, it all revolves around the run game and having field tilters running the football, whether that's O-line or running back. But when your O-line needs are heavily interior, it's really hard to invest a top 10 pick on that.
Right.
But if you're sitting there saying, this kid is a difference maker in the run game, and he values the run game that highly, I think it starts to make sense that they would be that high on him. There's a whole nother question about the value of drafting a running back that high. But when you're just talking about football guys wanting what makes their offense works, I think Gianti might be what they see, what Ben Johnson sees and goes, yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. I agree with you, Q. I mean, there is a world where it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible.
I mean, the Lions used a number 11 overall pick on Jahmyr Gibbs when everyone thought he was a second-round pick.
Yeah.
They paid David Montgomery when he was averaging 3.9 yards a carry.
Mm-hmm.
There's clearly a value there that they see that the rest of the NFL is kind of overlooked. And I mean, hell, even the rest of the NFL paid running backs this offseason. Running backs are kind of having a resurgence right now.
I was going to say, I'm looking right now, Q, at the list of free agency running backs. And admittedly, it's a very underwhelming list. But would any of these names, if you were the Chicago Bears, you sign in order to invest that likely top 10 pick in the offensive line or defensive line? Here's some of the names. Not only pick out guys that are relevant. There's some older guys in here that are making a little bit more money that I know the Bears aren't going to consider. Aaron Jones is a free agent again, obviously. Najee Harris is hitting the market. AJ Dillon is out there. Jeff Wilson is what I mean by guys that are older. They're making a little bit more money. Nick Chubb is a free agent. Javonte Williams is a free agent. Alexander Madison's back on the market. J.K. Dobbins is a free agent after what felt like a resurgence here for him with the Chargers. I mean, that's kind of where the big names end. I mean, you got some decent guys toward the bottom who are maybe nice off-pace guys, and Elijah Mitchell maybe. Emmanuel Wilson, who's having a decent year in Green Bay, is kind of their number 2. Jordan Mason's a free agent this year. I wonder if there's teams that look at what he did with San Fran.
Yeah, maybe a guy like Jordan Mason, if he's not a restricted free agent, which I would imagine.
He is an RFA.
Okay.
He's one of the few RFAs in this class. But really, I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at right now. If the Bears are going to pay a guy in free agency, it's J.K. Dobbins, Javonte Williams, maybe a Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, or Aaron Jones. Those are your big running back free agents. It's not a Saquon, Derrick Henry type year like last year was. That's why I think the Bears drafting a running back high is very, very possible.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you're gonna have a hard time seeing them pay a running back because Swift's making $8.5 million a year.
Right.
You know, like, so then you're going to commit what, 12, 15 mil a year to the running back position. That's
a lot of money in a room. That
I mean, drafting Gianti that high would be probably about 12 mil, but that's for a guy who you think is a real game changer. So that's different than paying for what's his name? Out of Denver, the
Javonte Williams.
Pookie Williams, yeah.
Pookie.
So that's kind of where I think Gianti becomes more of a possibility there. But like, even if it's not Gianti, like you said, a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, if it's Ben Johnson, they're going to value the running back position. That's one 100%. Thing that we have seen in Detroit.
Yeah, 100%. I think because of that, they would also though value a line.
Yeah,
I really do.
Oh,
like I think again, but like this is why I like the NFL so much more than some other leagues when it comes to their offseason. NFL is the only major sport that has their free agency before the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Every other league, because again, in pretty much every other league, unless you're a high pick in hockey or basketball, and you have to be like high pick, like top 3. Most of these guys you're not going to see as major contributors year 1 for baseball, hockey, basketball. So that's why they can do that. NFL is totally different, right? Like guys can be 3rd round picks or 4th round picks or 5th round picks and come and have a big impact as a rookie. So I think having free agency first is like, it just forces teams to consider other things, right? It forces a team like, the Bears in this case, right? What are you investing in your offensive line in free agency, right? If you go out and sign a couple of guys to shore up the interior, maybe you can say, hey, those 2 second-round picks, we're going to take D linemen.
Yeah. You had Kevin Zeitler and Will Freeze. Suddenly you feel like you have 2 NFL caliber offensive guards. You'd like a little more depth, but
Hey, Q, you know who's a free agent this year?
who?
James Daniels.
Oh, man. No, I like Nate Davis better.
Ugh, disgusting. Absolute disgusting. I mean, yeah, man, it's
the irony of James Daniels didn't have what they were looking like. It was like they basically slandered him slightly without directly doing it when they let him walk. Of saying like, yeah, this O-line doesn't have the personality that we want. And then letting James Daniels walk. Like that felt directly like James Daniels doesn't have the grit that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then to sign Nate Davis in his place is just like, ugh.
Just inept. Just inept.
Yeah.
Just disgusting. There's no other way to put it. I mean, this is a good draft or a good free agency class too, where if the Bears wanted to invest a little bit of money in the defensive line, they could.
Yeah.
It's a decent defensive line draft as a whole.
I know draft. You're saying okay.
I'm sorry, free agency.
Okay. I was thinking like Josh Sweat. I know is out there in the edge.
Josh Sweat
at D tackle,
DJ Jones, BJ Hill.
Okay.
Sebastian Joseph with the Titans.
Yeah.
Javon Kinlaw. I mean, it's still a decent football player.
There's some names out there, and I mean, really, you'd love to get a blue chipper. You're not going to find them. Right, you're not going to find a blue chip defensive tackle. They don't just pop up in free agency very often.
And when they do, they get paid like Wilkins got paid.
Yeah, Christian Wilkins was the guy last year who you could have gone after, and like the Raiders paid him so much money. But like as long as Billings is doing his rehab well, or like his rehab's coming along well, and Dexter's here. I just want one starting caliber body on the D line at D tackle. I just want to get more of a rotation there, and then maybe you can go get a Josh Sweat or something to be across from Montez Sweat, and then you'd have the Sweat brothers that just getting sweaty all over everything. Like, but I mean, I don't know where you find another edge rusher, which maybe that's the reason you don't get Gianti. Maybe you're saying, we really like Nick Scowerton at A&M, or we really like, man, I love Princely Umanlian. I probably just butchered that name, but out of Ole Miss, he was with Florida last year. Like that dude he can't play every down, but I'll tell you what, that dude can get after the passer on passing downs. Like that dude's bendy as all get out and has a bunch of moves in his bag. Like he is fun watch. Like so there are edge rushers in the draft to like, who maybe you can get that, or maybe you can get defensive tackle in the draft. Like it's a good defensive tackle draft. But I don't know. We're talking off season at week 15 again, and that just.
Yep, I was just gonna reel that back in. I was gonna be like, well, we're getting a good start on building the board because we're already talking about it, and there's still three games left this season.
Like I was really looking forward to this not be, and we knew this weeks ago at this point that it was here, but I was looking forward when we came into the season to it not being this again, and it is, and that's just it's a hard reality to accept.
That it is, my friend. That it is.
Yeah. But Ron, do you have any more thoughts you want to get out on this game, on the impending free agency and draft season that we have coming, and of what you think the Bears do from here?
No, Q, I'm a little morally defeated. I think a lot of people are after this game again tonight. Just another snoozer, and not even a good football game to watch on top of it. Not only a loss, obviously. So I think right now it's for me personally, we're still going to enjoy our O-line breakdowns. We're going to take these 3 games in stride. We'll worry about the free agency period and building the board here in January. And in the meantime, I'm going to dance on the graves of the one team in Chicago that's actually trying to do something, in the Chicago Cubs, who are keeping me excited. So that's where I'm going to dial in for a little bit here around the holidays, and just try to find some smiles, Q, because this This was a rough game tonight, my friend. It was a rough game.
Tough time to be a Bears fan, but hopefully it gets better from here. I am excited to watch the Karan Amagaji tape. I'm excited for that. Be on the lookout for that in the next few days. And, we will hopefully see some better football in the future, whether that's near or far. We got to see something better. But, Ron, let's get out of here the only way we know how.
Bear down, my friend.
Bear down.